I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025, and we are streaming live for you tonight on Facebook and YouTube. We hope you'll join the conversation. We have a great show coming up. We're going to talk to the Catawba Riverkeeper. His name is Brandon Jones. He's going to talk about how precious our waterways are, why we need to keep them safe and clean, and how the river has changed since Helene. He'll also let you know what his organization and similar organizations are doing across the region to help you before the next time you go in the water, before you go swimming, before you go out in a boat, things you might want to check about your local waterways. We're going to inform you about that. We're going to get started here in just a moment. But first, an important message about an opportunity to come hang out with us at the Carolina Weather Group this Saturday. Take a listen. This episode of the Carolina Weather Group is brought to you by Extreme Weatherproof, coming Saturday, July 19th at the Shield Museum of Natural History in Gastonia, North Carolina. Come hang out with the Carolina Weather Group from 10 until 4 p.m. Try your hand at our green screen, buy exclusive merch, or just come say hi to your favorite Carolina Weather Group panelist. We can't wait to see you at Extreme Weatherproof on Saturday, July 19th. It's going to be a great time. And we're going to have a special announcement. Something new is rolling out. So come see us Saturday at the Shield Museum to be among the first in line for this new Carolina Weather Group experience. All right, let's roll the open. I'm James Brierton, and welcome to the Carolina Weather Group, a weekly podcast dedicated to talking about weather, science, technology, and more from the Carolinas and beyond. This week, we're talking with Brandon Jones, the Catawba Riverkeeper, about why the waterways here in the Carolinas and beyond are such a precious resource, how to keep them safe and clean, and how to keep you safe the next time you go out in one of our local waterways. On my panel here tonight is also Frank Strait, Columbia, South Carolina. I should say on our panel. I don't own this panel, Frank. I don't know why I made that possessive.
It's a we, not a you.
there's no I in Carolina Weather Group, but let's welcome in Brandon.
There is, but
darn. That's why we stick with the science, not the spelling. All right, Brandon. I don't know how to recover from that. So
I really appreciate you having me on. I hope there won't be a spelling quiz later.
There will not be, clearly, because I will lose. I do want to let our audience know how much we appreciate you, too, because you were scheduled to be on with us a couple of weeks back. We had severe weather roll through the Carolinas, and you graciously rescheduled at the last minute, and we appreciate your flexibility. And as we are coming out live with this new episode on YouTube and Facebook on Wednesday night, or if you're watching or listening to us later, I'll just let you know at this very moment in time, as we're sitting here talking to Brandon, he somehow cleared the radar entirely. There is not a drop of rain to be found. I don't know how the man did it, but he made sure that we weren't going to rebook on him again. So, Brandon Jones, Catawba Riverkeeper, we were talking a little before the show. You were helping me understand exactly what a riverkeeper is and what it does. And for anyone in our audience who maybe is not familiar, could you bring them up to speed?
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit environmental group, or a 501c3, and our mission is to educate and advocate for the entire Catawba Waterway River Basin. So we're watershed-based groups. We cover all the area that flows into the greater Catawba Waterway Basin. It's about 5,000 square miles, starts in the mountains of North Carolina near Old Fort and the Linville Gorge, kind of flows due east until we get to Lake Norman, then turns south. It's got 11 reservoirs, 14 dams, 2 states, 26 counties. It's a major area, and we have a staff of 20 and about 1,600 volunteers a year that we work with to try and improve water quality.
You said something that really caught my ear there, because you said Catawba watery, right? Because all of these waterways interact with each other one way or the other. So if we have somebody watching from Myrtle Beach tonight who's like, the Catawba River's nowhere near me, the work that you guys are doing upstream matters, right?
Yeah, so we cover the Catawba Waterway. So it's the Catawba River until it turns into the Waterway River right after Lake Waterway. And then our jurisdiction stops there when it becomes the Santee at the confluence with the Congaree National Park near Columbia. But there are about 350 keepers internationally, and around us in this area, we've got a Congaree Riverkeeper, a Broad Riverkeeper, a French Rod Riverkeeper, a New Riverkeeper, a Yakima Riverkeeper, etc.
Wow, that's has a lot of waterways to cover here in the Carolinas and beyond. So if you're watching or listening to us here on the Carolina Weather Group tonight and you're not along the Catawba River, just know that the work that Brandon's talking about tonight is being repeated all across the region. How did the Riverkeeper Foundation come to be?
Yes, it really started as part of the Clean Water Act. So, 1979, we have the Clean Water Act, and part of that is a provision that says that all of our waters should be swimmable, fishable, and drinkable. That's a really lofty goal, and they knew at that time that that wasn't going to be achievable just through government action. And so, there's actually a citizen suit provision that says if the waters are not being held to that standard, if there's pollution going on, citizens are actually allowed to sue and to try and protect their water themselves. And so it really started with a group of fishermen on the Hudson River in New York, but then again has spread all over the world. It's now an international organization.
Wow. I'll put on the screen here for anyone who's watching or listening for us your Facebook page, which is a great resource for folks in this region. And again, there are going to be kind of similar things if you're watching or listening to us from elsewhere. But you guys posted each and every Friday along your jurisdiction waterways from Lake James, Lake Hickory, among them, but down, of course, through Lake Norman. Where you guys have taken water samples. Can you talk to us a little bit about what these water samples are and what people maybe should look for before going in the water?
Yeah, so the most common question we get asked is it safe to swim? And when I started this job, unfortunately, we were really not able to answer that question. The states do have, sensor networks, and they do have programs where they got and monitor. But oftentimes in North Carolina, there's about an 18-month lag from when they collect samples to when they report that data. In South Carolina, it's not quite as bad, but it's still not done in a timely manner. And so there's no way that you can rely on the state. And those programs really aren't set up to do that. There's a group called Swim Drink Fish out of Ontario that had really been pioneering this kind of independent weekly monitoring. And we do see this already at the coast as part of the Federal Beach Act. But for freshwaters, our nonprofit and similar ones have stepped up to kind of answer that question. So we have about 60 sites, the most popular swim sites, all the lakes and the free-flowing rivers that we have, where we have volunteers go out and interns and some staff collect samples, get them back to our in-house lab, process those, and get those results out for people to let them know the levels of bacteria.
Brandon, I've been watching your Facebook page for a little while now, and I think it was a week or so ago here in early July when you guys put out a special advisory. There had been like a one-time spill of some sewage into a particular cove in Lake Norman, but I also have seen pretty consistently some of these red markings for high E. coli levels up in the Lake James area. What in particular is causing some of these reoccurring problems to happen along the Catawba River?
Usually it's rainfall. We're fairly fortunate in this area that we don't have a ton of what we call point source pollution. There's not a lot of large, facilities discharging sewage constantly. We don't have the same kind of combined sewer system failures that you might have in some place like Atlanta or Boston. We do have a lot of old pipes infrastructure, but at this point, most of the issues that we have are really precipitation, rainfall driven. And so it's stuff that's on the land that gets washed in. And so this summer, we just have had a lot of rain events happen,
We really
midweek.
have.
And so whenever you have that, we're usually looking at 3 to 5 days after a rain event. We can still have those levels of bacteria, especially if there's high levels of sedimentation. The thing that usually will kill those bacteria off is UV, is sunlight. And so if there's high levels of turbidity, if there's a bunch of sand and clay particles in the water, they can actually stay in suspension much longer.
I'm going to put on the screen for our audio listeners some photos of the flooding that we've seen recently across some central portions of North Carolina, Durham, Chapel Hill, Greensboro, Hillsboro. And I know this is not your area, Brandon. This is a different river basin. But can you speak a little bit more about what you were just talking about, how heavy rainfall events could impact a river, generically speaking?
Yeah, so the Haw River has been, and the Eno have been hit particularly hard. We do have an affiliate out there, the Haw Riverkeeper, Emily Sutton, and she's been. I mean, her own home was actually flooded. So
Oh, wow.
their staff have been working really hard to get out and test wells and get get that information out to the public. But whenever we have these heavy rain events, very heavy rain events like that, you will have some ionized infiltration and intrusion. You'll have, basically water go into the sewer system and it will then pop out at the next manhole. And so you have a lot of
Mm.
sewage that will come in. Our systems are really not set up for the water to be that high. Oftentimes those manholes are maybe at the 100-year line if they're in a good place. But oftentimes they'll sink down or a big tree will hit one of those bridge crossings. At most of our major bridges, you're going to see there's pipes underneath. And so when the bridges get taken out or something hits them, that's another source of sewage. For more rural areas, all those fields where we have cows, anywhere that we've had land application of solids, those can be other sources.
Yeah, we're looking at some of these photos here that we've seen across the Carolinas in recent days and weeks. And coming up in the second half of our program, we're going to be talking with Tim Buckley, the chief meteorologist at WFMY in Greensboro, to learn a little bit more about all of the impacts of the relentless flooding from Chantal and afterwards that we've seen across that region. Brandon, let me put on the picture on the screen here some pictures you shared with us, the Carolina Weather Group. There's cleanup efforts along the Catawba River. Can you walk us through a little bit about what we're seeing your organization conduct here?
Sure. So, after the hurricane last fall, tremendous amount of debris was put into the Catawba River Basin and really all the rivers in western North Carolina. So a lot of the homes that were kind of just wiped in, trailer parks, etc. The Army Corps was able to get to some areas and get some of that out, and tons of groups like ours have been out there. But it really will take years to pull all the debris out, and some of it, just kind of gets buried, and unfortunately, we won't be able to pull out. This was from our cleanup in January, so you'll notice most of us are wearing dry suits. It was pretty chilly out there that day. And that's a large kerosene tank that actually still had kerosene in it that we pulled out. But yeah, anything that you can think of, anything that is in your house, whole homes were washed in that area. Just a tremendous amount of devastation.
Frank, I know you've been in this region for quite a while. You're in Columbia now, and you grew up in the foothills and the mountains of western North Carolina. You have a lot of experience, Frank, kind of being out in the waters.
On the Catawba, actually, I do. Growing up in Rock Hill, my grandfather, mother's father, was his favorite thing to do was go fishing. So we were
Wow.
on Lake Wiley and the Catawba River below the dam a good bit. So this begs the question in terms of the Catawba River, what changes to the river? I mean, were caused by Helene and even over the long term. I really haven't visited the Catawba River very many times since I was a teenager and was out there all the time with my grandfather. So what might I note different from someone who may not have been there in a year since Helene hit, and maybe for somebody who hasn't been there in 30 or so years like me?
Yeah, so if you're, on the Catawba River south of Lake Wiley, in that rock area like you're talking about, honestly, you're not going to notice a tremendous amount of change after Helene. There's about 6 major reservoirs between where the rain actually landed on the parkway and so it really was kind of baffled a little bit before it got down there. We still saw very high flows over 100,000 CFS. Generally, the flows there are about 5,000. So, roughly 20 times the magnitude. But even in the last 5 to 6 years, we've had 2 other events that were that large, so, and in that area of the basin. So you'll see a lot of debris on the side, some trees that were flattened down and put, kind of just with the banks. But I would say the biggest change that you'd notice if you hadn't been out there in about 20 years is just all the homes and development in the area. Further up in the basin above Lake James, that's where you really see the impacts from Helene. So the river's shifted in certain areas, whole trailer parks, campgrounds, homes are just kind of gone. A lot of areas that used to be trees are now just sandbanks. Some sandbanks have moved over. The river really has shifted and changed above those reservoirs. And then the same thing right below Lake James. Again, a lot of movement in the channel, a lot of down trees, huge debris piles.
Brandon, we took the show on the road a couple months back, and we went to Lake Lore, and we could see where the river there had kind of cut a new path, just like you mentioned with the Catawba River in your area. We know recently Lake Lore was drained, and it revealed all sorts of mysteries that were down below the water. I assume Helene did something similar with the Catawba, not only changing its path left and right, but also up and down with the depth.
A little bit, maybe to a lesser degree. With Lake Lure, they actually had to drop that down to do repairs on the dam. We were
Mhm.
fortunate in the Catawba Basin that all of our, well, not fortunate, but all of our dams were knocked out during the flood of 1916 and really tested in 1940. And so we don't have any of the of smaller dams like that were had to be drained. We did have an issue with the powerhouse at Lake James where that was completely flooded and they couldn't actually bring the water down. So the water was about
Hmm.
10 feet higher than it normally is for a good 6 months. And so that caused a lot of erosion. But unfortunately, we haven't had the same kind of the water dropping out and getting a bunch of discoveries.
Is there anything you're seeing along the river? We talk a lot on the show about excessive rainfall events, these excessive flooding events we're seeing, even climate change with just the changing temperatures in the environment. Are there long term evolution things happening along the river that are starting to become noticeable?
I mean, the river moves during these big events, right? So you have bars form in some areas, cuts over there, et cetera. And that is just kind of the natural path. But we have infrastructure in the way now. And so I think that's the real challenge is, we've built roads, I-40 is right there beside the Catawba.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a major issue. And so we really can't allow this kind of natural evolution of the hydrology unless we want to move the roads. In some cases, they've done that and they've retreated and they were able to move the roads. But in other areas, that's really just not feasible. And so then they try and put the the river back where it was. But I mean, this is just going to require constant maintenance, and we know that. And that's just kind of the price of having permanent infrastructure in a dynamic system like a floodplain.
I imagine it's working with Mother Nature and not against Mother Nature. As we continue to look at these photos of the volunteers, how can people get involved, just like the folks we're seeing on the screen?
Yeah, there's again years worth of trash out there, and it again the big stuff can be picked up with heavy machinery, but just the number of bottles, tires, cans, roofs, shingles, little bits of plastic, etc. That's not something that the Army Corps contractors or large groups are going to be able to get. It's going to take hands. It's going to take people. So our biggest event of the year is River Sweep, and that's the first Saturday in October. And we'll have over 1,000 people, over 50 sites everywhere in North and South Carolina, for people to come out and volunteer a couple hours. And you can really make a difference when you have a lot of people and a lot of resources in one place.
Yeah, I mean, we're just looking at these pictures, and again, for our audio podcast listeners, we're looking at wood, metal. I think that was a canoe that got pulled out of the water here. So, give us that date one more time, Brandon. When is your big cleanup this fall?
It is the first Saturday in October. I should know what that is this year, but let me just quickly
It's okay. I
check.
don't know either, but we're all racing now to
That would
check.
be October 4th, Saturday, October
Okay.
4th. The website should go live here probably sometime in July or August for sure. But between now and then, you can always check our website, and there's lots of other volunteer activities, including helping out with swim guide to check for bacteria and other smaller cleanups.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough how interesting I have found that swim guide here in the summer season when people are out and about and on the rivers, on the lakes all so often. And I hope by October 4th, it's no longer a heat index of 104 degrees.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully not. Brandon Jones, Catawba Riverkeeper, is there anything else you wanted to share with our audience?
I think the only other thing I might mention is that we have seen several reports this summer of harmful algal blooms. And so I
Hmm.
just encourage people to be aware of that. And the state now has a very nice reporting app. You can report that to DEQ. Just type in harmful algal bloom DEQ, and it'll take you right there. That citizen science component, that reporting component, is critical because these blooms pop up and down sometimes within a day or two. It's likely not going to be caught by anybody else.
I think our audience is very into any opportunity for citizen science. Are those the same blooms and forgive my ignorance that impact pets? We hear a lot of times like don't let the dogs drink the water.
Exactly. Yeah. So the toxins that can be produced by these blooms are very, very toxic to pets. And most people won't go down and drink green water, but your lab will. And so it's very important to keep your pets out.
And you said there was a mobile app that our audience could use to report these. Is that right?
Yeah, the state has it's through Survey 123, but it's basically a little mobile survey, and they can access that from their phone or from their computer.
Fabulous. Lots of really good information, lots of opportunities. Not only along the Catawba River where Brandon is, all across the waterways here in the Carolinas. So we hope our audience checks out your organization, the Catawba Riverkeeper, or whatever their local basin might be. We appreciate your time tonight, Brandon. And again, thank you for your flexibility. And we appreciate you sharing your message with our listeners here in the Carolina Weather Group.
Yeah, thanks, James. Really appreciate it.
We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to talk to Tim Buckley about all of that relentless flooding we've seen across portions of the Carolinas and the non-stop flooding. Don't go far. Here's a quick message. This episode of the Carolina Weather Group is brought to you by Extreme Weatherproof, coming Saturday, July 19th at the Shield Museum of Natural History in Gastonia, North Carolina. Come hang out with the Carolina Weather Group from 10 until 4 p.m. Try your hand at our green screen, buy exclusive merch, or just come say hi to your favorite Carolina Weather Group panelist. We can't wait to see you at Extreme Weatherproof on Saturday, July 19th. And we're going to have a brand new experience launching for our Carolina Weather Groupies. Everyone will be able to partake in it, but if you come out this Saturday, you'll be among the first to experience it. It's going to be really great. Candace Jordan has put on a wonderful event year after year there in Gastonia, so we hope to see many of you out there. I know Frank's going to be there. Tim Pounds is going to be there. We're gonna have our green screen out, so you like we said in the promo, you can come on out and try your hand at the green screen. And Frank, we're trying some new things with the green screen too this year, and this is not the big surprise, but we're gonna have capes for the kids. So if they aren't interested in trying their hand at being a broadcast meteorologist, they can pretend to be Superman or Batman or whatever it might be. I'm also going to get paper airplanes. I'm going to get a stack of paper, and we're going to fold those paper airplanes up, and then we're going to have green gloves for the kids to put on and take their plane in front of the screen, and they can fly their plane around. And because it's a green screen, their hands will disappear. What do you think about that, Tim? You want to come make some paper airplanes with us on Saturday?
I think that could be really fun. I'm going to bring a green cape or a green blanket or something, and then we can just totally disappear for feeling shy, right?
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be a really niche reference for anyone who is like a super weather fan. But let me see if I can. Let's see here. Will it do it? No. Wait. Oh, there we go. Frank has no idea what's happening.
So we got this new camera here. And what James was just doing, for those on the podcast, they can't tell, it has some AI setting to it where if you put your finger in like an L, just like they used to do to me in grade school, a big L. This is what's happening right now. See, this is so it like automatically zooms the camera or something. It's supposed to give you like a head track, which does work. But now I'm enormously zoomed out. So this happened earlier on our Weather Impact show, which we do on WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus, 6:30. Download for free on your TV. But I just zoomed right out. And
except for when we did it then, it wasn't expected, and I almost fell out of my chair.
It was not. It was not expected, but the technology's working. I just have to talk with my hands less.
I had the same problem talking with my hands, and that's how I discovered this problem. It's otherwise a wonderful camera, and I think there's a way to disable it. And then I think as soon as you disable it, it turns itself back on when you're least expecting it. So I don't know if you or the bosses are against me calling this Tim's Weather Nook, but that's what I'm calling this space that you're sitting in.
I'm fine with it. Tim's Weather Nook, Weather Cranny, whatever, just like Thomas's English muffins. Sounds good to me.
The nooks and crannies is what it's all about. It's not the same when you get the cheaper ones.
I know. And we have plenty of rain to fill those nooks and crannies with.
So much rain. I'm going to pop back on the screen for our watchers on YouTube or Facebook or smart TVs, as you just mentioned, right? You guys have had just a little bit of rain there in the central portion of North Carolina. Chantal brought a lot of it, but that wasn't all of it. That was just almost like the beginning. How are you guys doing tonight?
This is a big win for us. Tonight is, our first night in a while without flash flood warnings. So we didn't have a single one today. Right before the show, I was going to look up. I was out of town a couple of days this weekend, so I don't remember if Raleigh issued one. But I was going to look up the last day that Raleigh didn't issue a flash flood warning.
It felt like
we have Blacksburg
January
too.
At this point. You have Blacksburg.
January.
I think we need to send a fruit basket to the National Weather Service in Raleigh at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real. And all of, in our area, all the first responders in Alamance County specifically, if y'all don't know Alamance by name, it's Burlington, it's Mebane, it's the I-40/85 combo big highway that goes between Greensboro and Raleigh. They've kind of had it the worst. They got it the worst with the tropical storm back, which at this point was about almost 2 weeks ago, I guess. But since then, it's kept raining. And the heaviest spots have still been Alamance and now part of Eastern Guilford too. The Guilford parts have been a little bit more rural, but Alamance is a pretty heavily populated county. And so these are urban floods that are happening. And there's just tons of runoff. And so it's almost a joke at this point. It's not funny, but there's like a new town that gets a bullseye every day. So yesterday it was Burlington. They had about 7-8 water rescues in 30 minutes. And these are really flash floods because we have we're a news station. We have a team of photographers and reporters to try and go out and get these things. Half the time, by the time we go out and get them, they're already gone. So they're coming up quickly. They're going away. Not super fast, but they're going down fast too. But I don't know if people always understand the flash nature of these flash floods. They can develop really fast. I mean, yesterday, one of the stations is the Alamance Regional Airport in Burlington, just outside of Burlington. They got over 3 inches of rain in an hour. And
3 inches of rain in an hour?
Yeah, it was nuts.
I'd be impressed if I got that in a week. My lawn would be probably soggy if I got that in a week.
Yeah, I'll confirm with the Southeast Regional Climate Center. It's absolutely crazy. It was at least 1 hour, either 1 hour or 2 hours. They got about 3 inches of rain, and it was a 4-inch total for the day. And I'm going to try something here. Let's see if I can. Oh, you see that?
This is the fanciest weather nook I have ever seen. I was actually just gonna be like, well, I don't have your graphics on this show, but apparently, oh wow, okay.
See, we're
now
trying
you're
it out.
Showing off.
So it's about 16 inches for the month of July at this reporting site, and that's from July 1 through July 16, just today. So that's only half the month. Unfortunately, the data only goes back to 98 at this station, but either way, that's a fair, strong record for a monthly amount. And there's time to go. I have some viewers that are telling us they've got about, there's two Tims, go away. They've got about 20 inches of rain in the last couple of months.
I do that at 6:30 to you too. Have you noticed? Sometimes it's like two Tims, two Brads. Like, whoops, wrong button. I was just going to pop
up. It's quite a lot.
It's quite a lot of Tims and quite a lot of rain. Let's I'm going to show here. You tweeted this out too, and I think this was Tuesday, July 15th. Just the one river gauge here, just as like one sample size. How fast the water came up along the Reedy Creek in Gibsonville. So not a major flood, but I mean, this is essentially what you guys are seeing, right? You just see these. You get one of these slow moving thunderstorms, and that thing just rises vertically.
It sure did. And this was yesterday. So that happened yesterday. And that's a fairly rural part of the county where it happened. But still, and in some ways, it's not going to flood out as many towns where this is, but the danger is real. So this happened during the daytime, but I'm going to share my screen one more time over here. So this is Reedy Creek. That's that flood. That's literally the flood from the gauge. And what I was thinking, this is about 6 o'clock last night. But if you're coming up on that at 9 o'clock and no one's put a barricade on it,
that would be a problem.
These are the issues. So there are a couple of instances out there where we had the street flooding, of course, in Burlington, but those rural ones, I don't know if anyone's barricaded all of those yesterday. This is all cleaned up by now, but those river rises were pretty extreme. And we had the other day, this was over in High Point. A lot of people in the Carolinas might know about the golf tournament that we have every year. It's called the Wyndham Championship. So this is over by Sedgefield. Oops, I just lost it. There we go. But this is by Sedgefield Country Club. So you can actually see the green grass right behind it. And now they have sinkhole right on one of the roads right by there. They got, I guess they got it back on Sunday. And so it's just, different bullseye every day. High Point got it one day. Sedgefield. This is also that same road that had the sinkhole. The sinkhole showed up the day after.
That makes sense.
This was the flood. And then the sinkhole showed up the day afterward. This is the golf course. And the golf course is fine. And they've had floods like this before. But some of the roadways around it, actually, if you look very carefully on the left, those are some of the bleachers that they've already set up for the Wyndham, which is coming up. So lots of issues, lots of drama. And unfortunately, as we talk about it here, as you guys know, this is kind of our time of year where we're least precise when it comes to weather prediction, in terms of placement of storms, in terms of, who's going to get hit today. We can't really tell you that. And so that's frustrating for the users of the forecast and the community. And I get that. I'd like to be able to tell you when it's going to rain and how much, but it's just not really in our abilities to do that day by day. So tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it looks like we're kind of going back into that stormy pattern, but I don't know who's going to be the bullseye next time. Hopefully those will be a little more quicker movers and they won't be quite as stagnant, but it's certainly frustrating. And I understand people's kind of gripes with Mother Nature here about, why us? Why does this keep on kind of happening?
Yeah, I mean, to emphasize your point on the forecast, you know that storms are coming. You just don't know exactly where they're exactly going to pop up. I don't know that I need to screen share it because you got a fancy technology over there, but I was going to put your Bermuda high pressure graphic on the screen and have you kind of talk through why we're kind of stuck in this pattern. Sure.
Yeah, if you got it handy, you can pop it up.
Okay.
And I don't know, this is not like the fanciest explanation in the world, but to me, it seems like a lot of times in the summertime here in the South, we do get these big southeast ridges. We do get these, it's hot. It might be a big heat wave or something, but there's at least a dome and some higher heights in the upper levels to kind of push on things, to kind of keep a lid on those thunderstorms. And we just haven't really had quite that much of that recently. The high is pretty far offshore. We have all the tropical moisture you could want or not want. We just have it. The PWATs have mostly been above 2 inches. So for folks listening, the amount of water in the air is higher than usual. And it's persistent. And we haven't really had breaks in that. We haven't had lows in the 60s. So that's kind of a guide of how humid it is. And it is just summer in the South, and it is summer in the Carolinas in July, but it's a little bit more than that this time, I think, with the humidity levels being persistent, the lack of any capping on the atmosphere for storms. And the problem is you don't have much steering flow right now. So there's not much wind to blow these things around. Today was finally a nice little relief that we did get a couple storms, but they moved it 20 miles per hour. That was great because you can get rid of it. But if it just sits over your area and it just builds and builds and creeps, it's kind of like a creeping, crawling storm at that rate. You can't fight it. And it's raining 1 to 2 inches an hour, maybe more. That's part of the problem. The jet stream's far north too. We don't expect Canadian air this time of year, but sometimes you get a cold front for 2 days. We haven't had any of that either. So it's just a combo of factors, I think. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on the why, but
Frank does, because Frank sent me a DM that says, share my screen. I'll explain why I'm being so quiet. And I was going to say, because I'm a bad co-host.
Frank,
no, it's because all the action really has been happening in North Carolina, starting with Chantal, even though the landfall occurred at Litchfield Beach. Really, all of the real action was up in North Carolina. Just what you're seeing here is a plot of rainfall for the last 14 days. And we certainly did have some heavy rain in the PD region of South Carolina, some gusty winds along the Grand Strand there. Worst of that was in North Carolina too, but it had some wind gusts in the 40s, and I think one gust of 54 somewhere in Horry County. I can't remember exactly, but Chantal was a much bigger deal for North Carolina than it was for South Carolina because you had so much more rain up there. We certainly did have some heavy rain, but it just wasn't crazy. Now, we've been in a wet pattern in South Carolina, but it's been the typical afternoon thunderstorms, a little bit more widespread coverage than usual because, like you said, the Bermuda high hasn't been all that strong, and we've had southerly winds around that Bermuda high, south to southeast winds pulling in tropical moisture. So it's really been super muggy and what we call precipitable water, a measure of the total amount of water in the atmosphere above a particular point. That's been really high all the time, and so that we've had thunderstorms, and when we've had them, they've been really heavy and produced some downpours, but it hasn't happened on a very widespread basis. Now, on the other hand, a lot of that water that fell in North Carolina with Chantal and since Chantal has been ending up in South Carolina's rivers, so we have had some river flooding to contend with. But for the most part, we haven't really had the kind of severe flooding that y'all have had to deal with up in North Carolina.
It's a pretty fascinating map, though, and this is, I guess, 14-day total, no anomalies, right? Like this is just straight up.
That's total precip.
It looks like the Charlotte area, right around Rock Hill, and these areas, they're like less than an inch of rain, less than 3/4 of an inch in some of the extreme cases over 2 weeks.
There's a dome over James Brierton and Brad Panovich right now. It's not letting it rain there in Charlotte.
It only rains when I get gutsy enough to run my sprinkler. Then it rains.
James, may I invite you to lunch in Greensboro?
Do you have some water?
Every day.
I will say, Tim, looking at this map, looking at your neck of the woods, this map really shows how it shot the gap between Greensboro and Raleigh-Durham. Yeah. So our official reporting site is PTI Airport, which is on actually the western side of Guilford County. And they've had 7.6 inches of rain for the month. So they're off to a very wet start, of course. But that's the drier side of Guilford right now. So if you get closer to the Alamance side, think about Whitsett or, Gibsonville, McLeansville, Elon, or the colleges, they're closer to 10. And as we said, it gets even worse than that, closer to Orange County, Chapel Hill, we saw in the news, Chatham County, Siler City, those areas. Pinehurst was, I think, the first one that hit the news with Tropical Storm Chantal. And that was the first moment of, this is going to be one of those bad days for select few. And you can, this is a 2-week map, but you can see the path of Chantal very clearly. It went from Southern Pines, Pinehurst, and kind of, it made that turn. And it's kind of difficult to say, why did they what processes were at play to make it heavier in those areas, vice versa. But that changing the direction business is kind of hard. And so they made that turn. And, if you're going to, drive around a curve, you're probably going to slow down a little bit, and it sure did. And it was really that near the core of the system had a path of 7 to 10 inches of rain in a day, which is not sustainable. It dumped. You mentioned Orange County. They put out a new assessment that says that the storm caused $22.6 million in public damages. We know, Tim, that we heard multiple communities across multiple of those counties you mentioned had water supply problems. Because as we were talking at the beginning of our show with the Catawba Riverkeeper, these heavy rain events, they play into the infrastructure of water and sewage. In your neck of the woods, in your viewing area on the Greensboro side of things, I'm not sure how much you know on the Raleigh-Durham side of things. How is the water supply problem this week?
So the town that we highlighted the most in our news coverage, and the one that was impacted the most with daily life, was the city of Mebane, which if folks aren't familiar with Mebane per se, it's about halfway between Durham and Greensboro. If you're driving 40, it's right where that big Tanger Outlet Center is. And it's a rapidly growing community. It's one of these places that's, always on the charts of fastest growing towns. So they had some of the most rain. They had also a tornado touchdown that day during the storm. They got it badly. But for the water impact, they found out in the days afterwards that the water supply was, it wasn't usable anymore. So they had pump issues. They had all these issues where they were operating at a low capacity, right? So they were urging folks to conserve, and it didn't work that well. And then they got down to a kind of a critical moment where they had to actually just say, we need businesses to close. We need, so they did that. And that was last week. Since then, they've allowed businesses to reopen, and semi-normal life has started to resume. But it was a big disruption and a big problem, right? People not taking showers, and businesses not making money, people drinking bottled water instead of regular water. So that was the Graham Mebane area. And I know Orange County, similar situation there, but
Yeah,
People say,
I know.
well, how do you deal with all this water? It's too much water to deal with that quickly. 10 inches of rain in a day is never going to go without problems. But it's a big problem for sure.
We look tonight on this Wednesday as we're streaming live on the Carolina Weather Group YouTube and Facebook, and we can look at NOAA's river gauges here in conjunction with the USGS and other agencies. And I guess, Tim, this is somewhat your point, right? It's like, what do we do with all this water? Well, we wait for it to flow downstream. So even days after this relentless rain that you guys are getting up in the Greensboro and the Winston-Salem area, it's not just a you problem, because we can see that we've got flood warnings out along portions of the Cape Fear River tonight on this Wednesday as this water flows on out. So even if people are watching or listening back to us days later, they may have seen this, may still be observing this because all this water's got to work its way back out.
Mm-hmm. You ever go on the highway and you see one of those signs that says now entering the Cape Fear River Basin or something like that? Those are the watersheds. And so every river has a footprint that if you drop the water on this side or the other side of that line, it'll determine which river it flows into. And up here, a lot of it does go into the Cape Fear, which if you ever go to the Wilmington area, you go to the Battleship or something like that. Look at you having that on the ready.
Hey,
what a producer.
I was Googling fast. I was Googling site.gov river basin map. I was like, I need a public domain map of rivers.
That's good stuff. So the Cape Fear goes all the way to Wilmington, goes right by the Battleship downtown, the Riverwalk, and then it goes to Bald Head Island and Southport. And then, the other ones in our area with the heavier rain, the Neuse River would be the other one. So the Orange County rain probably goes more into the Neuse, but for us, a lot of it goes into the Cape Fear. And then the PD and the Yadkin River too. This is a fun map to look at if you've never looked at something like this.
Yeah.
Kind of neat to visualize.
This is rebuild.nc.gov. It's on here under river basin studies if anybody wants to go look at it. And then I'm going to put Frank on the spot. I assume you guys have cool river basin maps in South Carolina because, like, all of our water is being dumped down to you. That's not true. As we can see, some of it flows straight out to the Atlantic. Are you pulling a Scotty? Are you muted, or have I made you speak?
Yes, of course. Check my screen share.
The cat muted him.
The cat muted him. Stormy the weather cat came on through. Check your screen share.
Yeah, let's blame it on Stormy.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go.
Yes, you can actually. I guess I'll throw this in the chat. You can actually download this map from SCDNR's website because we're in charge of keeping up with the river basins in South Carolina. Yeah. That's one of the things DNR is responsible for. So we have this cool river basin map, and it even shows the sub basins too. And some of them, as you can see, go all the way up into Virginia.
I know. I do like how your map has out of state, like where the water's coming from, like what is upstream, right?
Right.
You've seen those signs, those signs for not polluting. It's like everyone lives upstream. Everyone lives upstream
exactly.
with somebody.
That's why when Tim gets 10 inches of rain, the PD River ends up coming out of its banks.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Let's see. We have some comments coming in. Branda says, my hometown. I'm not sure which town she was talking about, but I'm glad we've mentioned her hometown. I will say that you are, okay, so Okay, I was saying, because you're her hero, so I see that you know.
Brenda's a big fan and a good friend. She's from Mebane, for sure.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Yes, a couple other people chiming in, excited to see Tim on the Carolina Weather Group tonight, and also sharing that their hometowns flooded. I mean, we're sorry to see so many hometowns flooded. Tim, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Chantal was a named tropical storm, but it wasn't a hurricane. Is there an aspect, if we think of this through social science, where someone theoretically could have been caught off guard by the impacts from this quote unquote just a tropical storm?
I think so. Yeah, I think a lot of people were caught off guard, and sometimes you can have different types of off guardness or surprise. You can have different types of weather surprise. A well forecast event that says you're going to get all this stuff and you just weren't paying attention is one way. Or naming confusion is another way, that maybe we're not calling these things the right thing. Or you can have a case where that actually played out to be more than we were expecting and more than we were forecasting. I certainly didn't forecast 7 to 10 inches of rain that Sunday for our counties in our area. Now, we did say higher totals would be east and lower totals would be west, and the Weather Service certainly communicated that as well. But I think the highest I saw on the maps was about 2 to 3 inches, maybe 4. So this you can say overperformed, or maybe we need to do a better job trusting some of those smaller scale models, which kind of had it. But yeah, I mean, people were not prepared. And there was loss of life, and there was, lots of damage. The damage couldn't have been prevented. I don't think, not really, based on what we know now. It was just too much water. But the preparedness definitely could have been better, and we could have messaged it stronger if we were more confident in how much rain was going to fall. And then there's the, well, where question, because some models actually had that bullseye over Greensboro. Others had it over, Raleigh, and ended up in the middle. But I do think that was another case of, like you said, well, it's just a tropical storm. At that point, it was a tropical depression, and it never got windy. Not here.
Yeah.
We had a tornado or two. So it was actually a day where it was pretty easy to tell what is that tornado damage or not. Well, it wasn't windy. So they went out and surveyed all four, and all 4 of them were tornadoes. So it was
all the more reason that National Weather Service in Raleigh needs a fruit basket, because we keep saying Raleigh, and certainly, the triangle did see impacts from this, but we keep saying Raleigh because they cover your area. There's jurisdiction for anybody who's like, why do they keep mentioning Raleigh? But of course, we have seen pictures from Wake County and the Durham Fire Department in some of these photos that we've been rotating on through, where they've certainly seen impacts. And Tim, I won't put you on the spot at all, but I'll just mention, as we're talking about whether or not flooding like this could be avoided, or the impacts of it could be mitigated. North Carolina, on this Wednesday night, North Carolina announced a lawsuit today against FEMA for withdrawing or canceling millions of dollars worth of flood mitigation projects. Dozens of them across the area. Jeff Jackson saying that some of the municipalities had already started some of these projects, which, they might involve moving sewers, moving water treatment plants. There's the whole list of them. What becomes of the lawsuit, I guess we'll let the courts sort that out. But, I was thinking about these communities like Mebane who had problems with their water systems and their water basins. Whether or not that has anything to do with this FEMA project, I'm not the person to ask. But in terms of, I guess, trying to build things higher, right, or building further away from the river, that's what a lot of that money was going to be used for. And it just really got me thinking about resiliency, I suppose would be the word.
Yeah, and weather readiness in going forward. I think you'd be really smart to include heavier rain events as part of your planning, because it seems that we've been seeing more of that. I had another graphic here. This is actually, I didn't make it, but it's from our partners at Climate Central.
Are you stealing my graphics on my screen? Are we on the same wavelength?
I'm taking your job. You're training me too well.
All right, let me make your graphic bigger. Here we go.
Oh, so you had this one ready too. Well, in any case, if your air is warmer, it can actually hold more moisture in it. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about, climate change or global warming or whatever you'd like to call it, people might focus on how many 90-degree days did we have, and how hot was it, and how much snow don't we get anymore? Well,
yeah,
here it might be a lot more impactful on how heavy is your rain falling. And so the science of this is, if you increase by a degree Fahrenheit, it's about 4% more water vapor, which that might not sound like much, but everything is compounded here. And if you live here a long time and you see the weather events with the heavier rainfalls, it is something that's been going on. And it's something that we might have to contend with for a while. This was another calculation they made, which I haven't verified this on my own, but I was kind of pulling it from their site. They were talking about average rainfall intensity. So when you have rain, what's the average intensity of it in terms of how much is accumulating? And they found about a 14% increase in the last 50 years, which is, again, not nothing. That's for specifically my market in Greensboro. But
the Charlotte graph is similar. Yeah. I had this graph that they sent out today. Again, these are Climate Central graphics, and they sent this one today, which was talking about the U.S. billion-dollar disaster events, of which flash flooding is one of several different types of billion-dollar disaster events. But, we've seen flooding from Chantal here in North Carolina. We have seen flooding now in New York City, tri-state area. We, of course, have seen Texas. And so one of the other things that the folks over at Climate Central sent out today was this little video tidbit that I did want to play because I think it hits on something real key. Let's take a quick listen.
As the planet warms, we're experiencing extreme weather events that are not only more intense, but happening more often. Since just 1980, the United States has dealt with over $400 billion disasters across weather events like hurricanes, wildfires, and floods, costing nearly $3 trillion and claiming nearly 17,000 lives. And look, a cause for concern here is how quickly these events are piling up. Back in the 80s, the average time between disasters was about 82 days on average. Now in the past decade, that timeline has shortened to about 19 days on average. The $1 Billion Disaster Database helped us understand the rising toll of extreme weather and the impacts of climate change. Losing that record limits how we prepare, respond, and protect lives moving forward.
So the big picture mentioned there is that this U.S. $1 billion disaster database, which we've shown you year after year here on the Carolina Weather Group, is going away. They are not planning to continue that reporting. But Tim, as we wrap up here, let me ask you, they were talking there at Climate Central about how these $1 billion disasters, of which, again, flash flooding is one of them, are happening more frequently. If I'm somebody sitting at home watching or listening to this show, what can I do to better myself and my family to build a more resilient plan?
That's a really good question, isn't it? And what, knowing, I guess, your vulnerability in your home and in your area is probably key. So there's a lot of education involved in looking that up and what's your flood risk? How vulnerable is your home to flooding? If so, what would you need to do to kind of get into a safe spot in those cases? The wind, we have so many different threats here. And there's only so much you can do. You can't prevent bad weather from happening. We're always going to have that. Lately, what we've seen with most of the human loss is, and what we've been telling people is if there's a flash flood warning, especially right now in this pattern, you get home and stay home, because the main problems that we're finding is just people in cars driving into the water. And it's very easy to say, well, don't drive into the water. Yes, you shouldn't. And people do, but you shouldn't do that. But sometimes the problem with being out and still going about your day and still going to dinner is you can get put in a very tough situation where you have to make hard choices. It sounds like an easy choice. Well, what if this road's flooded and that one's flooded too? Or, these things are what people dealt with in Burlington last night. So staying home, being weather smart, being weather aware, just finding a good source for info and staying up to speed and not relying on the Apple weather app, I think is really key. If you don't like me, find someone you do, and find any source of local info you like that you find that you can trust. Make sure you're checking in on it, because there's a lot of personal responsibility with these things too. Of the info can be there, but it really is up to you to act on it yourself and your family as well. So those are things to keep in mind.
Makes a lot of sense. Know what your plan is going to be. So Tim, thanks for spending more time with me today, and I hope it stops flooding there. Sure.
Want me to do the camera trick again?
Could you pan out and fade to black and scene. All right. Tim, your audience there in Greensboro, we'll see you coming up tonight at 11 on WFMY and WFMY Plus.
That's right.
Does look like you're doing Algal, a legit radio show now.
I have to work on my voice.
I think you're good. All right. See you later.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye. Frank, before we go, what do our friends and listeners at home and across the Carolinas need to know about the forecast the rest of the week? Will we have any relief from these storms, any relief from this heat?
No. And no.
And scene.
The end. Well, although it depends. If you're in South Carolina, no, there's not going to be any break from the heat. If you're in North Carolina, not really much of a break from the storms. Take a look at the current satellite picture here. First and foremost, notice the little blob over southeast Louisiana on the infrared satellite pictures.
Mhm.
That's an area that the National Hurricane Center has been watching. It's the one that was east of Florida and predicted to move west. Well, it has, and has mostly stayed over land, so it hasn't developed, and it's starting to look like it probably won't develop, but we'll have to keep an eye on it because there are a lot of thunderstorms over the far northern Gulf right now. So we'll keep an eye on it, and there's a chance it becomes Dexter, a tropical storm, but not a very good one at this point, I think. So back to the satellite picture. You can see we've had some of our routine summertime thunderstorms over North and South Carolina today, but thankfully nothing that was enough to cause flash flooding up around the triangle or triad today. You can see thunderstorms passing by to our north, that associated with a cold front, or a front that's become stationary because it's trying to bump into that upper level ridge that's covering a lot of the southeast right now and keeping things kind of hot. In the coming days, it looks like that ridge is going to kind of fluctuate in strength. It gets a little stronger for a couple of days as we go into the weekend. That's going to make things really hot in South Carolina. We're going to see most of the state with highs in the 95 to 100 range. Only the hottest spots, like, my backyard. Columbia tends to be one of the hot spots. So it could get to 100 here on Saturday or Sunday. Then it looks like the ridge weakens a little bit early next week and temperatures trend downward a little bit, and the chances for afternoon storms start to increase again after being not totally on hiatus, but becoming far less widespread as we go through the weekend. Up in North Carolina, things a little bit different. The fronts to the north will try to move in, but we'll be kind of bumping up against that ridge to the south, so the fronts are going to kind of become stationary. We'll get a hot day or two as we go into the weekend, but your chances of afternoon thunderstorms are better, especially up in the mountains. And then as we go into early next week, as the ridge gradually breaks down, you go into a stormy pattern again, and so we start to see a risk for flash flooding again as you start to see those storms over the saturated soils you have along the I-77 corridor north of Charlotte, not in Charlotte. It hasn't rained very much in Charlotte, but off to the north it certainly has, and it's rained a lot. Over toward Raleigh it's rained a lot too, so those areas will have some risk for flash flooding once we get into next week.
Yeah, I don't want anyone listening or watching from Raleigh to think we forgot about how impacted they were by the flooding, because we know they were there. We
especially since you're in Charlotte and the people in Raleigh hate Charlotte and they think there's a conspiracy theory. And
I love Raleigh,
and you're conspiring against them.
And Chapel Hill,
and just like the people in Charlotte think the people in Raleigh hate them, and there's a conspiracy theory to make Charlotte look bad.
I mean, I'll say one of my favorite day trip or weekend activities is to hop on Amtrak, NC by train, and go to Greensboro or go to Durham and go to Raleigh and go to a museum, go to a park.
Yeah, but that's because you like trains.
It does have something to do with it.
It's the train. It's not where you're going. It's being on the train for you.
It's the journey, not the destination. I can like both equally, can't I? We do know that the storm actually flooded out the Norfolk Southern Main Line, which disrupted Amtrak service here in the Carolinas. Mm-hmm. They fixed it within, I want to say, 48 hours. It was pretty fast.
Railroads work fast. They need their trains to run. They need those railroads fixed when they get flooded, blown away by a tornado or something.
And they are no stranger to repairing rails here in the Carolinas after Helene.
I was like, they've had to do a lot of that, especially up in Asheville.
How many gondolas worth of ballast have been poured in the Carolinas in the past 12 months?
A lot.
Probably too much. Probably too much. Well, Frank, you looking forward to Shield Museum on Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a blast. Candace always puts on a great program. We hope people come on over. It's 10 to 4, Shield Museum. They're just outside of Charlotte. The South Carolina Climate Office is coming, so don't feel like this is.
I'm going to be wearing both hats once again. I'll be jumping back and forth between Carolina Weather Group and SCDNR's booth, which will also have Melissa there. Mm-hmm. She'll be the full-time person. I'll be the kind of the helper. Just like you're the main person in Carolina Weather Group's booth, and I'm kind of the helper because I'm bouncing back and forth. But
I only have to wear one hat this year. I don't have to wear multiple hats myself. So
one day a year where I have to wear both hats for both my day job.
Sherlock Holmes it. I'm gonna have one hat go forward, one hat go back.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
yeah, so I hope you guys get a chance to come on out. We'll have some live streams. We'll have some content coming into our feeds if you're not able to make it out. We do have a big announcement. We'll reveal it on Saturday. I think we'll also probably try to do a live stream for our Patreon and YouTube members who maybe aren't able to make the trip. So that'll be another way to kind of get in on the action. But we're looking forward to just hanging out with everybody. We have stickers. I mean, what more could you want? We have stickers, folks. Stickers. We know their air quality folks are going to be there. South Carolina Climate Office is going to be there. And of course, you, with your admission into the event, it is also the whole Shield Museum of Natural History. They got cool new dinosaur. I was going to say dinosaur bone exhibits.
Dinosaurs.
They got dinosaurs.
Yeah, my grandson would love that.
Dinosaurs. What more could you want? My son really likes, I think my son, who's still elementary school age, but I can already see the twinkle in his eye. He's got a love for geology. They've got, I'm going to say shiny rocks, and somebody's going to write in the comments what they're actually called, gemstones. There in the museum, and he really likes looking at those.
Cool.
So.
Yeah. Hey, if he's going to be into geology, maybe he ends up working for DNR one of these days.
That would be good. It looks like Jay's coming. Jay says, yeah. So, fabulous. So, yeah, 10 a.m. And I will be hopefully plenty caffeinated by then.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully everyone stays healthy this year.
Yeah, it was a problem last year. Yes, it was.
Right.
I still get an earful about that because I was a bad husband. Love you, dear. I'm quickly checking tabs to see if I had anything too urgent. I don't think we have a ton of time left for our Too Many Tabs game, but I will get in just a quick mention of couple of things that did catch my eye. But again, I'm going to try to be
quick. You can show mine that I meant to show a little while ago.
Yeah.
I was talking
Okay,
about how hot it's going to be. There's the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook for the end of the month, essentially, from the Climate Prediction Center.
No.
And looking hot, y'all.
I regret showing this
both
now.
Carolinas are likely to have above normal temperatures, although the odds are not as good as it is to our west over in the Plain States and the middle Mississippi Valley, where it looks like an upper level ridge will be very persistent and keeping things hot a lot of the time over there. Along the East Coast, it looks like as we get toward the end of the month, our ridge gets beaten back to the west and an upper trough replaces it. And we actually might get a notable break from the heat right at the end of the month. It may hold off into August, so don't get too excited about it. But we might actually get a decent cold front this far south to get into North and South Carolina somewhere around the 1st of August.
8 to 10 day outlook above average temperatures. Return to sender is my response.
Yeah, it's getting to be that time of year where you're like, I don't want it to be.
No more. Make it stop.
It's already hot enough when it's normal.
Did you see this photo from Dan Whitaker, Carolina Weather Group storm chaser?
No.
He was flying his drone and caught a lightning bolt. It's Greensboro on the left-hand side of your screen. But, I mean, look at that. Like, that is something out of a movie on the right-hand side of the screen.
Yeah, it sure is.
I think he's lucky he didn't hit his drone.
And where is he? Where was this picture taken?
Greensboro.
Okay, so that's Greensboro off to the left there.
Yeah, Greensboro off to the left. Lightning, I mean, like the anger of Zeus off to the right.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. You mean, was it? I thought Thor was the thunder god. And
doesn't Zeus have lightning things that bolts?
Maybe, and Norse mythology is not my strong point. So.
Mine either.
I just remember Thor's the god of thunder.
Okay, all right.
Because there was a cartoon about that when I was a kid.
When Saturday morning cartoons were good. Michael Lowry, friend of the show, tweeted Tuesday. He tweeted on Tuesday. Some encouraging news, he writes, over the past day, especially today, as the bipartisan congressional committees widely rejected proposed cuts to NOAA that would have decimated hurricane forecasting. I think we told you previously on the show that the proposed NOAA budget came out for the upcoming years, and there were some cuts in it. He also, I think, has since tweeted to say that, there's some encouraging talk about trying to rehire some of the jobs that were lost at NOAA, but he was saying that, bringing on people would be helpful, but also, they lost a lot of experience, a lot of mid and late career forecasters.
Right.
And last but not least, we are expected to hear this week from senators who might be voting on public broadcasting funding. And this is not a politically minded show. I'm not here to tell you what to do, except for the fact that I would encourage you, if you haven't already, go back in our Carolina Weather Group podcast feed. We talked to PBS North Carolina because it's just really fascinating, Frank, to learn all of the things they do besides being Sesame Street to your home. We learned that here in North Carolina, PBSNC not only is the originating source for all of the governor's hurricane briefings or winter storm briefings or whatever it might be, that their infrastructure is the backbone to the statewide first responder emergency radio network. They are the backup to the wireless emergency alert system. There's all these things that they do as public broadcasters that are a lot more than what people might associate with PBS. And I can't speak for South Carolina Educational Television, SCETV, but I would imagine, based on what we've seen, their role is not too different.
Yeah, the role's similar, right?
Yeah. So I would encourage you just to go check that out. There may be a lot of things that public broadcasting does that are not as clearly seen in day-to-day life as the programming PBS that you know of. So that's my 2 cents. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. I could do tabs all night, but we gotta go. I gotta go find stuff for Saturday.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, Melissa's in charge of gathering the swag that the climatology booth's office will be distributing in Gastonia. So
you guys always have a good table.
That. I just have to bring my ugly face there and not scare people away.
Well, I mean, I have it on good word that our tables will be next to Melissa's table. So.
Right, yeah.
Table buddies
next door to one another to make it easier for me to jump back and forth.
So
I won't dance. Nobody wants to see that.
No, let's see. Does my camera zoom out? It did before. Whatever. All right. Well, that's Frank Strait. I'm James Breyer. Thanks to our guests this week, Brandon and Tim. We appreciate their time. If you're watching us later on, thanks so much for watching or listening to the Carolina Weather Group, wherever you are. I hope that you like, subscribe, smash that bell, whatever it might be for the platform you're on. And if you want to partake in a live conversation, just like some of the folks did tonight by commenting on Facebook or YouTube, join us for new episodes when they premiere Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock on the Carolina Weather Group YouTube and Facebook page. Until then, I hope that you're real well and staying cool. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Good night.
Bye, y'all.